Hey everyone, with the release of Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition coming soon to Xbox, as well as Nomad getting an official game mode in Age of Empires 4 and the inevitable release of Age of Empires 4 on Xbox, I wanted to make a Age of Empires Nomad guide. This is specifically aimed at Age of Empires 4, so I think with it becoming an official game mode, there's going to be a lot of new players trying out what Nomad is all about. So I'm hoping with these tips, a little bit more better prepared when you dive into Nomad. I'm going to make a playlist for all of the Age of Empires tutorials that I'll be doing on the channel. So if there's some other topic you think you'll be able to get some good information from, please check out that playlist. With Nomad, the premise is pretty simple, and it's that you spawn randomly with your villagers scattered across the map, and you don't have a TC. If you play the Megarandom Nomad variant, which is my favorite, you can get any sort of variety in this map that is imaginable. You can get mountains, rivers, lakes, valleys, everything mixed all in one, and we've had some pretty epic experiences in Megarandom Nomad. When you start out, you want to normally find a good spot to plop your villagers to build your initial TC. I know that sounds really simple, but that can be a little bit harder than it sounds. Really what you want to find is an area pretty quickly that has gold, berries, water that does contain fish, preferably deep water fish, and a little bit of trees to help you get going with building additional houses or buildings. I think what's really imperative is that you get a really strong food and gold source. You can get some really great drops on your TC where you're surrounded by all the resources, actually. It really just kind of depends on where you take your villagers when you start out and find a good defendable position. A defendable position is very important. Normally, you see a lot of players build their town centers, their initial town centers, around the corners of the map, and I think that's just general practice because, generally speaking, plopping your town center in the middle of the map allows you to be a little bit more vulnerable from all positions, whereas if part of your civilization, your city, is backed up to a corner of the map, that's going to prevent someone from attacking from those sides. If you're playing a map variant where it's my favorite 2v2v2v2, 4 teams of 2 players, chances are going to be pretty high that there's going to be opposing villagers really close to your area. From my experience, I've seen Nomad spawns your villagers in the 4 corners of the map. So sometimes you want to just do a quick check, maybe get a little bit more line of sight with your villagers and ensure that there's no opposing villagers when you drop your TC. You still may be in danger after your town center is constructed, so I always recommend building a scout and seeing where your opponents have plopped or built their town center to kind of get an area of where you need to go attack. It's important to know that if you lose your 3 starting villagers in Nomad before you build your TC, you are eliminated. However, you can cancel your build and your town center and rebuild it later on. However, if your town center takes any damage, let's say your villagers are attacked, you cancel the build and run away, but before you destroy it, an opposing villager attacks the town center building, you're going to be losing out on resources, so you won't have the resources to rebuild right away. It's going to force you to build mining camps or lumber camps to get more resources before rebuilding your town center. And like I was mentioning earlier, once your town center is done, generally speaking, I like to build a scout right off the bat, get a lay of the land of where my town center is located, what's near my town center, what additional resources I could gather after, say, my initial gold pile runs out. Maybe get an idea of where your opponents are, where some good areas to proxy. You also want to find your sacred sites. There are sometimes in Nomad Megarandom, there may be only 1 sacred site. It's important to know where that is and if that is something that is easily defendable. And if it is, you may want to build a proxy there. I see a lot of times teams will go and rush the sacred site if there's only 1 of them, surround it with keeps or something and prevent other players from taking it, and they win by sacred victory. There's also a pretty good chance if a team has a really good defendable position, they may actually try to build a wonder due to the natural topography, whether they're surrounded by mountains or they're on an island or something. They're going to take their environment to their advantage, whether that's offensively or defensively. So if they got a really great defendable position, they may go and build a wonder. If worse comes to worse, you can always relocate. You can just do Control-Shift-V to select all your villagers and run. I think that's one of the cool things about Nomad, especially in Megarandom, is if you get attacked early on and you're getting swept out from your base, doesn't necessarily mean the game's over. There's plenty of videos I have on the channel where I got attacked really early on. I took off running with my villagers and essentially restarted, and I was totally fine. With the landmarks no longer eliminating you as long as everyone on your team, at least someone has one landmark remaining, you're always in the game, so long as you have villagers. So always keep that in mind. Just because you built your town center, and that's your initial starting point, doesn't mean you're necessarily stuck there for the rest of the game. You can always leave and build another city and come back and maybe either retake your land or win the game by other means. As the game goes on, map control is going to become more and more important. So you want to make sure that you have multiple town centers, make sure you're always training villagers. You want to make sure that you get an idea to see, can you trade to the neutral markets to get a boost in trading? With Nomad Megarandom on the larger maps, you can get some ridiculous trade returns, and that's going to become more important as the game progresses. You want to make sure that if there's good defendable positions that are advantageous to your team and take something away from your opponent, whether that's forward mining, walling off certain areas, building proxies, maybe even a whole nother secondary city, if you will, with more town centers and production buildings, definitely go ahead and do that as well. Again, like I had said earlier, be aware of low sacred site counts. Not every Nomad Megarandom map is going to have 3 sacred sites, so just make sure you keep an eye on that and make sure your opponents don't take all of those and start a sacred countdown, as well as wonder victories. If that is a win condition, you want to make sure you scout your opponents and make sure that they can't build a wonder. Or, if they do, make sure that you have the resources available for you to go and rush that wonder and make sure you take it out. Overall, I think you'll notice that the starts to Nomad games can be generally pretty slow. Normally, you'll see people hit age 2 or age 3, within the 5 to 7 minute to 8 minute mark in regular multiplayer games in Age of Empires 4, and you're usually going to see the 7 to 8 minute mark for age 2 tech ups in Nomad, just because it takes so long to build your initial town center, get your civilization going. Really slows the beginning of the game down. However, you can get some really spicy openings if you're surrounded by other villagers. English villagers in particular are very dangerous in the beginning of Nomad games, since they have bows instead of knives to initially attack opposing villagers. So beware of English. I would say is probably the strongest civilization right off the bat before town centers are built. But yeah, make sure that you're defending your initial position, you're scouting for opponents nearby, and getting a game plan with your teammates. You don't necessarily have to build close to your teammates, but I do think it makes a stronger defendable case for you as the game progresses and more teams are eliminated if you're doing a multi-team version of Nomad. So that's a general getting started beginner's guide for Nomad in Age of Empires 4. It's really my favorite game mode in the entire game because there is so much variety in what can happen. Generally speaking, Nomad games in Age of Empires 4 are much more casual. Normally in Age of Empires 4 Nomad, you see a big variety in player skill, and it's a much more casual focused game type. I think you see a lot more casual play in this than in ranked. So I think if you're learning the game, you're newer to the game, this is actually a fantastic way to kind of understand the dynamics of a lot of your civilizations and the way that map control works in Age of Empires. Finally, if you need any more tips for Age of Empires 4 Nomad Megarandom, I have a really cool Google Doc that I'm building out that contains all of the great seeds that we've played on in the last few weeks and months in Age of Empires 4. It gives you the seed number as well as a screenshot of what the minimap looks like, as well as some generalized tips on how to build out in each age as you tech up through the ages, as well as some characters that we do not recommend you play against in Nomad, whether these gentlemen are toxic or they like to auto-quit, those sorts of things. We have that list as well. So link will be in the description for that, and it is ever growing. I hope this guide was really helpful to you, so please let me know in the comments What's your favorite part about Age of Empires 4 Nomad? Is it the random spawns? Is it the variety in the maps that you can get with Megarandom? Is it the player skill variety? Love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Again, I'm building an Age of Empires 4 beginner's guide playlist, so be sure to check that out. And Age of Empires 4 is coming to Xbox later in 2023, and I'm really excited to try that out, so videos of that will be coming as soon as I can get my hands on the game, so please look forward to that. All right, that's going to do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you, James.